Cool. So this meeting today is macOS patching with Nudge and DDM in the real world. To start off, I'm Steven Smith. I've been with NetApp for almost 10 years now. I've been the Mac admin for just as long, but was able to stand up the environment, so I've got a lot of knowledge in our environment.
Cool. I am Robert Keleghan, obviously from NetApp. I work closely with Steven on the Mac, managing all that platform.
And I'm Ryan Smith. I work for Jamf, and I've been with Jamf since 2018. I have worked in support as an enterprise support engineer.
Yeah, so if you guys watched the keynote yesterday, they were able to demo the blueprints aspect of software updates. So if you saw that, I mean, that's basically what we presented. So if we're good here, we'll just go ahead and leave. But we'll show you guys some cool stuff, how we've been able to manage our environment.
Just want to call out, some of the stuff you've seen yesterday in the keynote is newer versions of blueprints that Jamf has released. Our slide deck might be slightly different with the windows that you see for blueprints or DDM, so just keep that in mind.
Yep. So I love taking pictures of all the slides that pop up whenever I'm watching a presentation, but I hate it when I take pictures of the same slide 7 times because I don't know when they're done with the slide, and I get something for every thing that pops up. So to help you all, we added a little camera picture that's going to appear in the top left corner, and that will let you know that it's your moment to take a picture. So if you're looking to take pictures of the slides, keep an eye out for that. And just to have a little bit of fun, we're going to practice, just have some fun little banter here for a moment, and then you'll get to see when you're able to take a picture. So we're going to do a bit of US versus European vocabulary.
Yeah.
Rob's our resident Irishman, so we'll go through that. So in the US, color, C-O-L-O-R.
In Europe, it's color. We say it correctly. So.
Yep.
In EU, it's called a lift.
And can anyone guess what that might be? Yep, you got it, elevator.
EU, it's called a holiday.
Guess again, what's that in the US? Vacation, good job. All right, in the US, we have a fanny pack.
We're just not going to get there today. Maybe tonight at the party tonight, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. The US, we have pants.
It's trousers. That's what they're called.
Yeah, pants means underwear in Europe, but yeah, you've been saying it wrong this whole time, so. All right, so choosing an OS patching solution. There are still a lot of great solutions that are out there today. I mean, there's Nudge, which we'll be showing off, right? But Superman, it's another great tool, Swift Dialog, if you want to create your own flavor of how you want to present updates. You can still work with the software update commands built into macOS. There's MDM commands that are still available as well as DDM commands. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can present your updates to your users and get them to patch. But I'll go ahead and go through our patching journey. Starting off in 2017 when we introduced our Macs. So at the time, it was brand new. We were just learning it, and we started with just the MDM commands that were available at the time. Not great, like some of the deferral logic that was in it. So on average, we got about 30% within about 2 to 4 weeks adoption of the latest version. And really, that was more to the effect of users that were clicking upgrade by themselves and not actually interacting with the pop-up. And then 2018, that's when we started getting wise and came up with I came up with a software update UI script. It was very similar to Super, but basically I used Jamf's own pop-up notification tool at the time to work on it, Jamf Helper, and basically it had some logic about deferrals that was built into it, and with that, by making it a more forceful update, I was able to get close to about 70%. And then 2020 rolled around, and we were back at MDM commands. I was so pissed about this because Apple at the time decided that the software update framework required user interaction. It was no longer something that you could just automate without user interaction. You had to you had to punch in their credentials for approval. And knowing our users, which I'm sure is the case for most places, they don't like to type in their password with a window that they're not really familiar with. And so we're back down to about 30%. And we struggled with that for a really long time. Fast forward to 2023, and we started looking into Nudge. That's around the time that Rob joined us, and his first task when he joined us was to help us with our updates. He had implemented Nudge at his last company, and he could not brag enough more about what he had done, and honestly, it worked out really well. It was just a notification to tell you, hey, you need to update. It didn't do anything else other than tell the user you need to update. And with that, we got about 80% adoption within about, again, 2 to 4 weeks. And then now, 2024, we still use Nudge, and we actually include DDM as part of that. And the two pairings have just worked so well for us. We get close to about 90% adoption within about 2 to 4 weeks, which is really quite incredible. And we feel that those two tools work really well. So why did we choose Nudge and DDM? To start with, it's active development. Because there were a lot of tools between 2017 and now that have kind of died on the vine, right? But still, some of the ones I called out earlier, Super and Nudge, I mean, those were tools that we looked at pretty seriously. And we felt that Nudge and DDM would be something that would still be developed. And then from there, we wanted something that had first-party support. DDM commands are developed by Apple, so I mean, that's your first-party support, right? And then Nudge was, it might as well be first-party because it is part of the Mac admins group within their Git repo. And it's such a commonly used tool out in the world. Some really big customers use it. Jamf uses it internally. Obviously, we use it internally.
Big shout out to Mac admins for Nudge.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of building out and supporting it. Native integration. We also wanted our solution that we were going to pick to be something that works seamlessly with Jamf and allows us just to manage our updates directly within our existing MDM platform. I know it's a Jamf conference, but I know that Nudge you can also use with a number of other MDM providers, right? And then ease of setup. As admins, we could be lazy, and that's okay. I wanted to make sure that the setup was pretty straightforward. They had good documentation and just minimal configurations for us to get it started, just to experiment with the tool, and then obviously hone it in as we actually use it. And I felt that those were pretty easy for us to set up. And then lastly, a reliable user experience, because none of that is worth anything if our users don't actually interact with the pop-ups. And so we want it to be a consistent experience, a predictable experience, and something that would reduce our IT overhead when it came to supporting our users with what was going on. So to kind of go into the user experience then, this will show you exactly what our users see today, and I'll go into these later as we go on. But to start with, there is a config profile, which is also now a blueprint, which sets up just automatic updates where you basically configure it so that it will automatically install as soon as it's available to our devices, and you get that push notification. It appears on the GA, the general availability day for our company. It does not force updates, but it does just prepare it in the background and gives them an option if they want to on the first day. And then from there, self-service is an option for our users at any point. It's a break glass update solution in case there ever is an issue with patching, but it uses the erase install tool. It's a really powerful tool. It's always available to our users, and it has a nice Swift UI dialog that shows basically what it's doing in real time. And then Nudge, that's your in-your-face notifications. You can configure it to take up your entire screen, part of the screen, and those notifications appear one day after it becomes available to our employees. Again, it does not force the updates. I know you can configure it to be a little bit more aggressive. We don't go that approach. We just want it to notify the users. And as you get closer to the deadline date of an update, the update frequency increases. And then on the last date, that's where we have the DDM commands, where it forces the update on the deadline date. It also appears one day after it becomes available with the Nudge notifications. And again, just like Nudge, the frequency increases as you get closer to the deadline date.
Cool. So hopefully you'll be able to understand my accent, so we'll get through this quick enough. Let's talk about environment preparation. So this is what we do specifically inside of NetApp. So certain areas that we cover: software updates, erase and install, Nudge configurations, DDM, auxiliary, deployment, and we're going to cover a kind of a template planning and release strategy. So back to the config profile part. I want to call it here, it is deprecated in macOS 26. So if you do go down that road, it will only do macOS 15. It is replaced by blueprints with DDM for macOS 26. So it is just a standalone configuration profile. It's enter the payload for software updates. We literally click all the boxes, and then we untick the beta versions, and we untick to restrict users from being an admin, and then we literally deploy that out to all systems. Erase and install. So we use erase and install as a one-stop shop for a user that's inside self-service. It's literally just a PKG that you download and install on all of your devices. We have it set to go through self-service, so it's always there on everyone's device. It's scoped to all devices that they can see it. The actions inside of the policy that when we deploy it out, it's just to install the PKG. And then there's an execution command which just triggers erase and install to run, and you can actually set different variables inside that command to do what OS version you want. So we're obviously triggering 15 here. It does work with Tahoe. So if we were to replace 15 with 26, it will reach out and install 26. So we have confirmed that. And obviously you can do check power and obviously whatever the screens you want to have. And then, okay, let's talk about Nudge then. So Nudge, again, you get it from the Mac admins. You download the config. We particularly went with the Nudge post-install script. So I want to call that out first of all. But first of all, you had to install the Nudge application. So you just get it from the repo, set up a once-off policy. Your frequency is once per computer. You do recurring check-in, so it's always on devices. Again, it's scoped to all devices. The first action it will do will be install the application. We have install the app. We have another package also installs the images, so we deploy custom images to ours, kind of small little UI things that users can click on to point them towards where to install or where not to do. It's just a handy little branding tool. And then obviously we apply an inventory update because we want to know if it's been deployed to all systems. Okay, Nudge configuration. So we didn't go down the config profile road because at the time it needed to be done quick to install Nudge, so we took the non-standard approach for Nudge. So we did the post-install script, which is actually maintained by Dan Snelson and the Mac admins team, so big shout out to them again. So literally take the post-install script, upload into Jamf, and then set your parameters. It comes with default parameters out of the gate with Nudge, but you want to change them again for your own company. Also, we don't leverage the launch agent that comes with the config profile part or any other variations of Nudge. We use the launch agent that's in part of the post-install script to trigger when it reinstalls. Like every 30 minutes on the hour, we have it set inside here. Okay, also for Nudge configurations, we set exclusion groups for Nudge, so when we deploy the policy, we don't want every user getting it. So we literally have a smart group that detects that they're on the latest version and that they're also part, I'll go back to that real quick, that they're also last 30 days, because we keep a 30-day exclusion rate.
Here you can also add other exclusions, like if you have VPs or if you have like a group that can't be updated, that's where you would add there too.
Correct, you can, yeah. Okay, DDM, today, the new way, DDM, everyone uses DDM. So it's driven by a smart group. If you haven't used DDM before, it's driven through smart groups. You would literally go in, create a new smart group in your Jamf Pro, and set out the criteria that you want. So in this one, we're looking for any versions that are on 15.5 when we created this. You would do any ones that are not on or less than Tahoe or 15.5 or 15.7.1. whatever the latest version is. You would also add in what groups you don't want DDM to get. So if you have a particular finance unit that they can't upgrade, or on the other departments, you would add them into this as well. And then again, we do the last 30 days, so we make it relevant to all active devices. Moving on from that then, we have, again, auxiliary configuration. So as part of our pre-stage, we don't want old devices being enrolled into our Jamf instance. We want the latest and greatest. If they have a vendor that keeps a stock of hardware, we don't care. We want them to get the latest OS. So we have it set up that inside our pre-stage, there is an option to do minimum required OS. So we choose specific versions. So we don't want the latest one that's available. This is what version we want. And here we choose 15.5. We have upgraded ours to be, well, we will upgrade ours to be Tahoe soon enough. Also, in part of auxiliary configurations, which is a handy one as well, we use obviously conditional access. So we just have part of our Intune conditional access stuff. We have our compliance group that goes, we only want OS versions that are greater than or equal to 15 onwards. We'll upgrade this to Tahoe 26 onwards when we get to it, but for now we only want devices to be from 15. So let's jump back to the Nudge deployment then. So you've done all your auxiliary stuff, you've done your smart groups, you've done your DDM setup. Let's actually get to deploying it. So again, you take your policy, you go into your script, you set your parameters. It's a once-off deployment, so its frequency is just set to once a computer because you don't want to deploy it more than one time, so it doesn't make any sense. Your trigger would be reoccurring check-in, so they check in. Scope would be all computers. In here, you would also add, for this policy, you would then add in your exclusion groups. So you don't want to have latest macOS, you don't have incompatible hardware, so you add in your exclusion groups. An action would be then literally just to run the script, and then it does an inventory update so you know it's been ran on devices. You can see here as part of the image, for the plist domain, it comes with a default one. We just edit ours to be more like NetApp, so it looks inside the preference file. You can see what the entry is by having it as com.netapp. We reset all the config, so when we can deploy it over and over again, it just resets itself. We set a deadline date. That deadline date is important for DDM because they have to match. So if you want it to be today at 12 o'clock, then DDM and Nudge has to be today at 12 o'clock. And then you want your required OSs. So obviously we have 15.5. You obviously keep them up to date to whatever OS versions you want to have. Okay, so we have a nice and neat kind of Nudge break glass deployment. So the scenario is you've deployed out Nudge, and for some reason VPs missed a check-in, or recon didn't happen, or network issues, but Nudge reappeared again on their device after they've done the upgrade. So we literally redeploy out Nudge again, the Nudge script again as a policy. It's set to once per computer. You can just do individual groups, or you can do individual machines. It's set to reoccur and check-in. You can do all devices or individual devices if you want. You want the action to redeploy the Nudge script, have the settings set to reset all, so you want to reset all the config, but drop your required OS version to the OS before it. So if you were, for some reason, you had devices going to 15.7.1 and they got Nudge again, reset this to .15 or 15.4 or 15.5. So when it does its in-flight check of the OS, it doesn't reappear again. And obviously do an inventory so you know what's been done. Okay, DDM. Yes, again, driven by smart groups. So you previously created your smart group who you want to target to. You go into your Jamf console, you click software updates. You choose inside the list of OSs list of smart groups that you want. You hit the little radial tick box. You click upgrade one or update one group. You come down to the next window then, and you then choose. For us, we choose download and schedule to install. First option, and then we do the forced install date. Again, this has to match what's inside Nudge, so they both deploy or get forced install at the same time with deadline dates. And then we don't do latest or latest on based or latest major or latest minor. We do specific. So I want you on this device. I don't care what else you're doing. You get to this version. And obviously we choose 15.5. And then you click comply, and then you cross your fingers to make sure it all worked. And obviously you come back down with a result to say, hey, it's been installed on 3 devices. So that's that one. And again, with Nudge, we have a break glass for DDM. Not sure how many knew you could do a break glass for DDM, but we have a break glass for DDM. So you would go to the previous group that you've obviously upgraded, or you don't upgrade, or all your devices or a specific organize the unit. You would go into that smart group, you would click the action button. You would go cancel all commands. Gives you to the next window. You go cancel all pending commands. I played around this for a while. If you choose any other option, for some reason DDM doesn't stop, it still goes on. So you do just cancel all pending commands, and it just wipes any pending command for that device. And then you click next, and then you get the option then, hey, it's been done. You cross your fingers and it worked. So back to you.
Yeah, so planning an update. So this is kind of what our internal experience is like for when we plan any kind of update that's coming out, whether it's a feature release or even just a quality, so major, minor release. So starting with the beta cycle, our team is testing it as soon as it's available. That's typically 1 to 2 months before it's available to the general public. And then we'll email and notify our teams and just say, hey, please update. And if there's any issues going on, we all do that in chat or in email to say, hey, what's going on? We report the issue. If we have to work with a security vendor to fix one of their security agents, we'll work with them. But we do as much as we can during that beta cycle. And then from there, we have a release candidate. That is what goes out to basically it's still in the beta seed. And that's where we have everyone that's in our engineering team. Just a little bit broader group rather than just Rob and I. We ask everyone to update to that. It's typically available 2 to 5 days before it's available to the general public. That's again, we email our team, please update, and then from there, we also send it off to our QA team if it requires QA testing or any kind of internal unit testing. That's where we will get that completed. And then between the release candidate and the organization, I mean, it goes out to the world, right? And then it becomes, after about a day, it becomes available to our organization. That's when our users start getting notifications. The next day, they will get their daily DDM notifications and their Nudge notifications. They have the option to update now, update later, or get reminded at a specific date. And then about 24 hours prior to the notification, before the deadline date, our users will get hourly push notifications from DDM, and they will also get hourly notifications from Nudge. And you can tweak that to however you want Nudge to notify your users, but it does become more frequent. And in both cases, they have either an option to update now, or they just dismiss the window, and then the next day, they will have the force install experience occur. So at this point, Nudge is still doing full screen notifications, but the DDM changes. So they get a notification an hour before your deadline date and time, and then they start getting recurring notifications an hour before, 30 minutes before, 10 minutes before, and then 60 seconds before it does the update. And at that point, they're getting it. And so here's an example release schedule of what that looks like. So we start our beta testing. We do turn that on as a special config profile or a blueprint for our team. We do as much as we can between when the release comes out to where we have Apple's general availability. And on the day that it releases, that's where we decide whether it's a go or no go. If we have to adjust any of our deferral logic or the blueprints or the DDM or the config profile, if we need to set that to be a longer deferral, whether it's 30 days, 14 days, 90 days, that's where we make that decision. And then if we're ready, it becomes visible to our employees after 1 calendar day. So if it releases on a Friday, they get it on a Saturday. If it comes out on a Wednesday, they get it on Thursday. And then notifications, it's also 1 business day after it becomes available to the organization. That's where they start getting DDM notifications as well as the Nudge notifications. If it comes out on a Friday, we'll wait until Monday to start rolling that out. In this scenario, it begins on a Friday, right? And then from there, we give 10 business days after it's available to our organization to where it needs to be force installed. And then on in this scenario, calendar day 10 is where their notifications intensify. Day 11 gets even more notifications, and then on day 12 in this scenario, that's where the install deadline occurs, and that's where everyone's going to be forced. And then after that, we do reporting to our management and to any other interested parties to basically report how we did, right? We do an inventory update on day 13, then after about a day or so, we'll send a report off to our management to see how we did.
All right. So, blueprints. If you attended the keynote yesterday, a lot of this is going to be review, but there is some additional detail I think will still help you out. So, on blueprints, blueprints are a new feature that simplifies complex declarative device management workflows by allowing admins to bundle and deploy settings, restrictions, config profiles, using either pre-built templates or custom-built templates. There's a one pane of glass solution using DDM to control both sides of this workflow that we've talked about. It is meant to be OS independent. It controls how the updates are handled, much like config profiles, and it also does enforcement with commands using DDM. Current requirements, Jamf Pro 11.15 or newer. You'll need to be on macOS 15 or newer. And you also need to have OIDC authentication with Jamf account. You don't necessarily have to use the single sign-on integration with that OIDC authentication, but it is a requirement. There are also some additional requirements around networking and user permissions, and we go over those in the documentation there. And the other big one is that this is available in cloud only going forward. So some other things. If you're at the keynote, Apple talked on stage, and they used to say that DDM is the future. That's not what they say anymore. DDM is today. If you're on OS 26, you're going to have to start using DDM sooner rather than later. From the Jamf side, we have the vast majority of the DDM keys available today in blueprints. The team is constantly working towards adding all of them, and we're getting there. There is basic reporting right now for blueprints. It will tell you the command is sent, it will tell you the device got it, but it's a bit basic at the moment. The team is working on improving that, and from them we should see some massive improvements on that in the fourth quarter. Right now, if you send the command, you're still reliant on advanced searches, smart groups, patch management to check the progress of your fleet. Blueprints isn't going to keep track of those devices and what they're doing yet. Apple's also officially deprecated the keys for deferring updates and config profiles. So if you have any devices on macOS 26, you'll need to use blueprints in order to defer updates. I've heard reports that config profiles still work sometimes, but it's not a guarantee. If you're trying to defer, I wouldn't go that way at the moment if you have blueprints available to you. And we recommend using blueprints for anything on OS 26 at this point. So this screen is very similar to the config profile. This is going to control what the users are doing as well as what updates are available. It includes major, minor, and rapid security controls and the download behavior. We'll go into some more detail on that. Like for this one, we're using the config to allow standard users to install software updates, as well as we're enforcing it so the notification appears an hour before the update is going to happen for the end user. In addition to that, we can also control their install actions. In this case, we've told the Macs that they are always going to automatically install the updates. We're choosing not to do the downloads since they're already doing the install. In this case, we've said to never install the security updates, at least automatically. This is a new feature available only in Blueprints is beta enrollments. You can enroll a subgroup of users into the macOS betas automatically if you scope them to this. It does require bit config. Steve and I went through it a couple weeks ago, and we can definitely help you out at Jamf to get that rolling, and it can make doing beta testing a lot easier once you have it set up. And this screen is very similar to the config profiles. If you've ever done the deferrals there, it's basically the same thing, except in this case, we're using DDM to do it. So we're deferring updates for 90 days for majors, and minors only deferred for 1 day in this one.
Sorry, just a quick comment on the beta updates. If you follow Apple's documentation on how to enroll into the beta program, it is really difficult. I'm not the most programmatic type of person, but this is it's actually pretty complicated. Seriously, reach out to your Jamf team, and they can help you out with getting it. what they have just makes it a million times easier. And we recently just implemented that. So cannot recommend enough that you reach out to your Jamf support team to get help with setting up the beta program.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about this, but if you have any questions about this after the session too, you can always talk to us at the support booth or after the conference too. We're always available to talk about it. The other thing we can also now control too is rapid security responses. We can control those. In this case, we've chosen to restrict both of them, but we have the option now to do that. And finally, we get to the enforcement part. So this is similar to the traditional commands. The only DDM command available for macOS updates right now is the schedule command. So as you can see here, on the left side, we have the schedule command in Blueprints and the schedule command within the software update section. Both are identical in how they operate. So if you do not have Blueprints today, you can at least still use DDM with the software updates pane and use it that way. And with that, any questions?
Yeah, if you have a question, there will be a mic going around. So just raise your hand and they'll find you. Are the slides shared after?
All the sessions are available after. I don't know about the slides. Otherwise, I mean, we can send it out, right?
Come to us afterwards, we'll
Yeah, we can give it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a question over here.
Are you managing like the C-suite folks who don't want to be forced in that, or do you guys not have that problem? And the second question I have is, what about like the Safari or, not an OS update? Are you guys managing that?
I got the first question about the C-suite. At the moment, don't care. You're getting it. Tough.
We
can do exclusions, but at the moment we don't do a white glove effect.
Yeah,
they get the nudge prompts so they can defer stuff.
Our VIP team, they work closely with their executive assistants, as well as we have like a dedicated guy in our local IT teams who reach out to them to help them ahead of time. Yeah. So they just keep an eye out for when the updates are there.
They get the same prompt, so we don't do any exclusions.
Yeah, no deferrals for them. I mean, you could do something by doing exclusions for a VP group if you have a list of them. That's definitely an option. I think the second question was about patching Safari and any other macOS updates, or not macOS updates, but macOS software that comes through the software update framework. That would all be part of what we configured as an automatic install for any of those applications. We don't put any deferrals on that. For us, like our security team, for example, they always want people on the latest version of Safari. So if they're on macOS Sequoia, as most of our users are today, but there's a version 26 for Safari, we want them to still be able to get to that latest version of Safari to have a patched version.
We do have a custom workflow outside of all of this that deploys Safari updates. So I'm not going into that today, but yeah, we try and do that.
Outside of that, a lot of our patch management uses like Installamator workflows.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any Installamator sessions here, but if you are interested in just application patch management, check out Installamator. Question there, and I think there's one more here up front after that.
Does the installer method that you use support the object installer, the DDM installer for macOS 26 yet?
The Nudge installer?
Yes.
It's the last time I posted on the Slack channel, it was the updated version was coming out for Tahoe 26.1.0. Dan Snelson was going to be working on it, or he had mentioned in the group, or there was some kind of chat going back and forward. So it is coming. I've played around personally with my own version of Nudge, and I do have it working, but I want to get it validated by people in the Mac admins community. So, but it is being developed.
Yeah, if you have questions about Nudge, Mac Admin Slack is a great place to go and join that channel.
And I do want to try out there, the configuration profile method, it is the preferred method, and I do believe that's out the gate with macOS 26, but we use the post-install, so obviously it takes a little bit of time for us to get that set up. Anyone in the room use Nudge, by the way? Do we know?
Handful, yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned about the the cadence for the DDM push notifications that, you know, it starts like once a day and then it goes to like hourly and then frequent. Is that just the default behavior of it, or do you have to set that cadence somewhere?
That is the only behavior.
Default, it's Apple's DDM default.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that slide where it showed that like 60, 30, 10, I stole that from Apple, so they did a good job of that. So
That's a ways back.
Cool. Any further questions?
Yeah, here. What happens when the user comes back from vacation after macOS install deadline? Will they be effectively blocked for an hour or two until OS is patched?
Say that again.
I had a hard time hearing that too.
What happens when user comes back from vacation after macOS deadline update?
I'll say this the nicest way, sucks for them. I mean, if we have,
DDM will be pending.
so here's the deal, like you can set a deadline date, that's the strategy that we have. I know that there's deferral logic that's available with the blueprints. They actually showed that off during the keynote. At the time, I don't remember that being part of what we built into our slides, and it wasn't an option, so I do think that's newer availability. Steven, myself personally, I have a lot of trauma with the deferral piece, because if you have experience with the MDM commands to do software updates, you will know that the deferral feature does not work. You know, I'll hold my breath a little bit because it's DDM, it's new stuff. Apple's really shown themselves to done a lot better job with the new DDM framework. I haven't had a chance to test it yet.
Ryan says it works, so we have to trust him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
If it doesn't work.
I did some testing before this because I want to know what happens if I set my Mac to update within like 5 minutes. Because the only DDM command's the schedule, so you can't say do it now. So like, all right, cool. What if I give it no time to do it? It essentially enforces it as fast as the Mac can possibly download and install it. Is what it ends up doing.
I think the schedule does work. So if you set it to a schedule and the user turns off the laptop for 2 or 3 days and comes back, it will pop up to say it is due to be installed.
Yeah, because the
and then
command
it'll do its own countdown then. So that will work.
And it still follows that same, like, you have 1 hour, you have 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 60 seconds. So, other questions?
I saw earlier that you guys are using a smart group to exclude Macs that are on the latest version. It was my understanding that Nudge doesn't show its own screen if you reach the minimum required OS. So why do you do the exclusion if Nudge should already be handling that?
Yeah, between Nudge and DDM, they both have logic that checks the latest version. We do it to be extra safe.
Yeah, it's just
Nothing
an extra
more than-
precautionary measure. Just
Yeah. Nothing more than that. I mean, you could do that if you wanted to. You could just say it goes out to everyone. But yeah, for us, we want to be extra safe.
we know that some users will upgrade outside of Nudge and outside of DDM. So it just takes them out of the list. Just so.
And there was a question up here at the front.
Thank you. In higher ed, all of our faculty are VIPs and C-suite. We are super aggressive with our Nudge to get the latest OS updates, but we have difficulty enforcing upgrades. The result is we have every flavor going back. And so it will bug and continue to bug people, but we also don't enforce or inflict reboots because we can't. It's just the nature of our environment. The part of me that agrees with that the Empire did no wrong and wants to enforce and inflict this on people, so I have mad respect. I am assuming, based on everything you said here, that your OSs are, you're at the latest OS. How fast do you force people to Tahoe? How fast did you force them to get to Sonoma and Sequoia?
Yeah, I could talk a bit about that. So there's a lot of pieces to that. So we're not on Tahoe yet today. We have a lot of security agents. I imagine a lot of people here do. And we have to make sure that those are qualified before we actually do the upgrade. In some cases, you have to have them upgraded before or you have to have that application updated before they even upgrade. So we automatically put in a 90-day deferral whenever a major or feature release, whatever you want to refer to it as, comes out, and we spend that time pounding our vendors to say, are you ready, are you ready, are you ready? And I seriously do it every day. They hate me, but I do it like every day. And then after that, once it's ready, I mean, we roll out with it. If devices come into the environment and they already have Tahoe, or whatever the next release is after that, like, we do our best to support them. Luckily, most of our security vendors, we've picked some pretty good ones, and they've been really reliable with providing close to day one support. And again, as we're doing our beta testing early in the beta cycle, we're able to see if there's any big issues. We can report that to our vendor. So being able to have a team, if you have a team, or at least like an early adopters group or a pilot group, if you can get them involved, that is a really big help. I know that could be challenging. And the question about, or you made a comment about how it's really challenging to force people to update. A lot of that is cultural. And for us, it was also cultural too. And we had to basically work with our security team, work with our management, and really
Hammer down that they have to upgrade. It's
just emphasize how important it was. And once they had their backing, it was easy after that. And that is honestly one of the hardest things to do. It's just the cultural aspect of it.
I would throw in, and we don't use it because we haven't had the need to use it, because our users, they want to go to the latest and greatest.
Yeah.
You could potentially look at, Nudge has the ability of blocking applications, right? So if they're using a particular app, just you're not getting it until you upgrade. Tough. You could just go down that road.
Yeah.
It might help you, it may not, but it is an avenue.
The problem is not forcing updates. Those are good. Forcing upgrades. So to the next OS.
Yeah, so the feature up, the hard part's, if you can't hear it, the hard part is going from minor updates are fine, but a major update is challenging. So yeah, we go in with the mentality of it's just like a minor update, but again, we have to make sure that our security agents are ready to go.
Or you do the DDM of do it now, shut down, reboot, forced.
Yeah.
Like, we give them an option for the deferrals up to so many days. We have done it in the past for Sonoma, where we typically try and release ours before Christmas, or Xmas as you like to call it. So like in February, March, when they haven't upgraded, we'll do a forced download, shut down, reboot, you're getting it. So it is also an avenue to use.
And there's also one other solution that we didn't talk about, but it's part of the things that you can do. You can just have a update and install, and it's required.
Yeah.
And that forces it. Like no deferral logic, no target dates. It's just anyone in scope, they will be force updated, and that works for both minor and major updates.
I will say, keep in mind, we got caught with this as well. If you are going macOS 26, you now need to use blueprints, no longer configuration profiles. So there will be that certain amount of time. We have it now as well, where we have all devices that are not upgraded to Tahoe yet, using config profiles, and now they're using blueprints. So you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and we have 2 restrictions payloads now, one for anybody before macOS 26 and one for after 26.
Yeah.
The only difference between the two of them are the software update settings that are within there. And we now have a blueprint just targeted for macOS 26 to get the devices that are going into the environment today.
Yeah.
And I can speak to how Jamf uses this. Jamf uses about half of this workflow. We are our own guinea pigs when it comes to beta testing our own software. So our fleet is ahead of the curve, so if things break, it breaks our stuff versus yours. So we often will push day 0. Nudge is already there telling you need to upgrade. You get 2 weeks at Jamf. We don't use DDM to enforce it, but after 2 weeks, Nudge takes over your screen. You can't do anything. You have to upgrade, and you got plenty of notifications along the way.
Yeah. Any further questions?
All right.
No, if there's none, happy days. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.